you could put yourself in mute. Thank you. Jai Hare Krishna, everyone. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 7, verse 34. Thank you for the recitation by the two wonderful devotees. Okay. Shibiraya Nineshantam Rajva Bhadva Ripum Balad Praharjana Prakupito Bhagavan Ambujakshanaham. Okay, the word for word translation. Shibiraya, on the way to the military camp. Nineshantam, while bringing him. Rajva, by the ropes. Bhadva, bound up. Rupum, the enemy. Balat, by force. Praha, said. Arjunam, unto Arjuna. Prakupitaha, in an angry mood. Bhagavan, the personality of God, Godhead. Ambuja Ikshanaha, who looks with his lotus eyes. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. After binding Ashwatthama, Arjuna wanted to take him to the military camp. The personality of God, Shri Krishna, looking on with his lotus eyes, spoke to Arjuna in an angry mood. Purport. Both Arjuna and Lord Shri Krishna are described here in an angry mood. But Arjuna's eyes were like balls of red copper, whereas the eyes of the Lord were like lotuses. This means that the angry mood of Arjuna and that of the Lord are not on the same level. The Lord is transcendence, and thus he is absolute in any stage. This anger is not like the anger of a conditioned living being within the modes of qualitative material nature. Because he is absolute, both his anger and pleasure are the same. His anger is not exhibited in the three modes of material nature. It is only a sign of his bent of mind towards the cause of his devotees, because that is the transcendental nature. Therefore, even if he is angry, the object of anger is blessed. He is unchanged in all circumstances. Translation. After binding Ashwatthama, Arjuna wanted to take him to a military camp. The personality of God, Shri Krishna, looking on with his lotus eyes, spoke to Arjuna in an angry mood. Let's recite the invocation prayers. Om Agana Timrandasya Gana Jana Shalakaya Chakshur Malatam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Nama Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shiguru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Tam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savajutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Tamsha Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bindu Jagapate Gopishwar Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sadadevi Pranamama Hare Priya Panchakapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Swami Tinamine Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Okay. Thank you, devotees, for allowing me to speak. Kindly asking for the blessings of my spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Swami, to Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada, so that I may be able to speak with pleasing words about the pastimes and glories of Shri Krishna. Thank you. So this particular verse is explaining about how after Arjuna had captured Ashwatthama, Ashwatthama was the son of Dronacharya. Dronacharya was actually a pure Brahmana. And not only was he a pure Brahmana, Dronacharya, the father of Ashwatthama, was also the guru, the spiritual guru of the Pandavas, as well as the Kauravas. But he had a soft heart for the Pandavas, and in particular, he had a soft heart for Arjuna. So this particular time when they were training at the camps, in the military camps, Dronacharya was teaching them all the arts, the way of warfare, of arts, and performance of the different brahmastras as well, teaching them all the different strategies and suppose in a war against one another in military warfare. This is an opportunity where Arjuna was able to learn as much as he can from Dronacharya. Dronacharya had a very soft heart for Arjuna as well. That also caused Ashwatthama to be very jealous as well, because Arjuna was the favorite student, he was the number one student, the famous archer. But because Ashwatthama had, although he was a Brahmana, he did not act as a Brahmana because he heinously killed the 5 sons of the Pandavas while they were sleeping. And because of that, Krishna was very angry, Arjuna was very, very angry, everyone was very angry, and they had to capture Ashwatthama and punish him accordingly. Also, Draupadi, the wife of the Pandavas, wanted Ashwatthama to be punished as well because he killed all the 5 sons of the Pandava. So when Ashwatthama was captured by Arjuna, although Arjuna was very angry, he showed, like it explains down here, his eyes were like balls of red copper, whereas the eyes of the Lord were like lotuses. So the mood of Arjuna, the angry mood of Arjuna, and the angry mood of Krishna are different. Arjuna, being a Kshatriya, of course, he had every right to be angry for somebody wanting to kill their own son. But for Krishna, he is the supreme cause of all causes. He is the controller of everything. He knows the past, present, and future of everything. And he knows the actions of every act that takes place. So in this case, although he was angry, but he didn't show that anger as such. But at the same time, he wanted to be punished because Krishna actually explains that although he may be born as a Brahmana, Ashwatthama, he wasn't actually qualified as a Brahmana. He didn't have the qualities of a Brahmana at all. So just like this example is given, a High Court judge, he may have all the qualifications of being a High Court judge, but that's not to say that his own son could be a High Court judge as well. So it's very important to understand that just by being a Brahmana doesn't mean that you could just, being a Brahmana doesn't mean that you could be a Brahmana by birth. You have to have the qualifications, just like any career that you go for, you have to have the qualifications to become a lawyer, to become a dentist, to become a doctor. Even in the case of a warrior, you cannot just say you're a warrior, you have to be trained. And a Brahmana as well, you have to be trained to become a Brahmana as well. So because he wasn't showing the qualities of a Brahmana, Krishna wanted to punish him. The reason being because Krishna is actually the supreme authority of all Vedic scriptures. And the Vedic scriptures aren't there just for reading purposes. It's there for everyone to follow. These are the scriptures, the laws of Dharma itself. And it actually says that if one actually does heinous act to another person, like kidnapping somebody's wife, burning somebody's house down by fire, or doing some other sort of commitments, offensive commitments to another person, he is to be punished. And that's the whole reason why the whole Battle of Kurukshetra took place, because of the offenses the Kauravas had done upon the Pandavas, to Draupadi and to Queen Kunti. So in one of the verses in Bhagavad Gita, there's a very nice verse. Krishna explains the reason for his responsibility of ensuring that Dharma is upheld. Now, does anybody want to read this at all? Can you see the screen? This is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 24. Would anyone like to read? Everyone's feeling shy. Okay, I'll read it. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 24. Utsidayu me loka nakuryam karma chedam shankarasya cha kartasyan upahanyam imaha prajaha. If I did not perform prescribed duties, all these worlds would be put into ruination. I would be the cause of creating unwanted population that would thereby destroy the peace of all living beings. So here Krishna is actually explaining the purpose of him upholding the prescribed duties. He has to perform the duties himself. If you read the Krishna Lila book, it's very nice, actually gives the stories where early in the morning, he bathes very early in the morning, he performs all his rituals, attends to his family duties, he goes out to meditate, and ensuring that, of course, when he meditates on himself. And it's actually setting an example that how one should follow. And similarly, a spiritual master is considered to be as good as God because he's a confidential servitor of the Lord. Although he doesn't claim to be the Supreme Lord, his responsibility to act in a way that is always pleasing and follows the instructions of the Supreme Lord. All the instructions from the Bhagavad Gita. If for any reason the spiritual master did not follow those instructions as laid out by Krishna and by Dharma itself, what would happen? The disciples would start diluting all the activities of spiritual devotional life. And then what would happen? As time progresses, just like Chinese whispers, some may say, well, my spiritual master was very flexible. He said that you didn't have to chant 16 rounds, or you didn't have to follow the 4 regulatory principles, or you didn't have to really, commit yourself to doing so much devotional service. Just do whatever you can. But of course, certain instructions by a special master to a particular disciple may be due to a time, place, and circumstances. Certain devotees may not be able to chant 16 rounds because of their health, because of their work commitments. Some I know who are initiated at a very young age, and the spiritual master is so merciful to them that they allow them to have Guru Diksha, but they've, because of their studies in schools, have actually said, well, chant at least 8 rounds, but at least they know they've actually taken that disciple under the hand of the spiritual master. And it's the spiritual master's responsibility to ensure that he follows the instructions of the spiritual master. But also, it is also the duty and the responsibility of the disciple to follow those instructions too. You cannot whimsically say, well, Krishna is very merciful, I can do something one day and not another thing another day. No, we have to be serious in our Krishna consciousness. We have to follow the rules and regulations. As I mentioned earlier, if we do not follow those rules and regulations, we can just come into our ruination in our spiritual life. And there will be a point where we want to have that bhav, we want to have that taste, we want to have that love for Krishna. We will start making offenses to other devotees. When we make offenses to other devotees, that is the worst time, because at that time, your spiritual life completely diminishes. So we have to be careful. Even devotees, spiritual masters, rather, they get angry. The word guru actually means heavy, but they have to chastise the disciple when they're doing something wrong. It's only to actually ensure, just like a father has to chastise a child, why are you doing this? Why are you stealing? Why are you doing this naughty behavior? Of course, just chastisement isn't in a harsh punishment at all, but it's just a punishment in a way that will actually learn him to be a better person. For example, even myself, when I was a young boy, I used to steal a lot. My dad would punish me. And then because of that punishment, as well as the punishment, as well as teaching me about the principles of Dharma, about the karmic reactions of stealing somebody else's goods, will have a repercussion later on in your own life. And for that reason, I started stop stealing things when I was young. And as I read the Bhagavad Gita more and more, the more of the instructions by Lord Krishna became more prevalent to me, understanding why, how one behaves and how one shouldn't behave. So here Krishna is angry, but Krishna being the Supreme Lord, he has unlimited qualities, and his quality of being angry is actually transcendental, because whether he's angry or pleasing, it is transcendental. He becomes angry for many reasons. And one of the reasons is Punitraya Sadhuna Vinasha Chaduskrita Samstapanatayam Sambhavani Yuge Yuge. In order to deliver the pious and to re-establish the principles of religion and to annihilate the miscreants, I appear as myself millennium after millennium. And it's important to understand that the first reason why Krishna comes is to deliver the pious. He wants to protect the devotees. Krishna is a protector of the devotees. There are many qualities. Of course, there's unlimited qualities of Krishna, but there are certain qualities that define his personality, his all attractiveness, his ability to be all compassionate, his all strength, beauty, fame, opulence, renunciation, wisdom. But there are other qualities within Krishna as well, where it shows he is very compassionate to the living entities. And that's the reason when he does become angry, it is for the benefit, for protecting the devotees. So I'm not sure if I could add a note here. Let's just see if I can. Yeah. While I'm talking, I'm just hoping that some of you devotees could actually think of some stories of Krishna where he becomes angry. And perhaps you could share those stories with me. Okay. And there's a reason for this. I'll explain later on. So in this particular instance, the word anger is used quite often in the Bhagavad Gita. In one of the verses in Bhagavad Gita, this is chapter 2, verse 56. Dukeshva anudvigna manaha shukeshu vigata spriha vita raga bhaya kruda stitadye muni uchyate. One who is not disturbed in mind, even amidst the threefold miseries, or later when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage of steady mind. So the mind is unfortunately the resting place of anger, lust, greed, pride, envy, illusion, attachment, lamentation. The mind is actually causes us to delve into different things. So Krishna actually says also, for one who has controlled the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, the mind is his worst enemy. So by able to control the mind, one could actually free himself from these kind of miseries of attachment, fear, and anger. But to control the mind is not easy. But Krishna says to Arjuna, because Arjuna is saying, how can one control the mind? It's easier to control the wind than controlling the mind. But Krishna tells Arjuna that you have to, wherever the mind wanders to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must suddenly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. So the mind is constantly flickering. There's so many thoughts every minute of our life. Some good thoughts, some bad thoughts, some from past deeds that we're sort of resenting, or some happy thoughts that we're having. We're all constantly having thoughts in our mind, but being constantly engaged in devotional service, being constantly engaged in reading Krishna Katha, by chanting the holy names of the Lord, by singing the glories of the holy name of the Lord, by hearing the topics of the holy name of the Lord, allows our mind to be focused in only one person, and that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. With the situation that's going on around the world, is very difficult. We're always in constant fear. What will happen if there's a third world war? What would you do in such a situation? Would you sort of think of Krishna? Would you start stocking up goods, foods, clothing? What would you do? It's a very strange situation, because in one way, our life is always protected by our parents, protected by brothers, protected by sisters. But sometimes we always think, is Krishna really protecting us? How do I know? There are many times when we've become angry as well. And can you also share an incident where you've been angry at Krishna? Maybe I could just share that.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, can you repeat your question, please?
Yeah, sure. I'm just typing it again. Has there been a time when you've been angry at Krishna? You know, sometimes, I don't know if you know, there was a story where many of the ladies during World War II, they were praying to the Supreme Lord. Of course, they're Christians, praying to Jesus Christ for the protection of their husbands who went out in war during Second World War to fight against Germany. But unfortunately, many of them came, you know, they were killed, they were, you know, mutilated, so many things, catastrophes that happened. And because of that, their prayers were in vain, and they sort of had complete disbelief in the Supreme Lord. They didn't believe in Jesus at all. Why didn't Jesus protect our husbands from these calamities? So sometimes we do get angry because there's certain expectations in our life that we want Krishna to fulfill. I want to be happy. I want a happy life. I want to be, you know, in a nice position, nice career, nice house, nice family, nice wife, husband. You know, why is it that everything's going wrong to me? Why is everything happening to me? But here, there are many beautiful stories within our Leela of Krishna's pastimes, where Krishna has protected the devotees and is become angry at those demonic people who are trying to attack his devotees. So even though he may attack the demons, but nonetheless, Krishna is so compassionate that he actually delivers those demonic persons, just like, I won't give the examples away, but we're hoping that you can share some of the stories of Krishna protecting his devotees, that when he's killed some of the demons during Vrindavan, their, you know, their life source actually enters into the body of Krishna himself, and like an effulgence part of the Brahmajyoti of Krishna. So does anyone want to share any stories of Krishna's Leela where he's become angry to protect a devotee?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Mataji. What's your name, please? Yeah, go ahead. You can speak. Can you share some stories?
Oh, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
You want to say your name and share?
He got angry and he protected Prahlad Maharaja.
Yes, very good. That was one of the best stories we can hear. When Lord Nrsimhadev, his eyes were red, burning with fire,
Yes.
and he wanted to protect his little boy, Prahlad, devote Prahlad. Yes.
And Hanumanji, when he
Yes.
burnt Lanka and
Very
became
good.
very angry.
Yes, very good. What's your name, Mataji?
Kanta.
Kantabet. Yes, that's very nice. Hanuman, because he wanted to save Mother Sita and he was a great devotee of Lord Ramachandra, he was very angry at the demonic Ravana and all his demonic followers. He burnt Lanka to the ground. So that showed that in some ways you can use your anger to protect his devotees as well, Krishna's devotees. Yep. Any other stories anybody has? What about a story where Lord Krishna attacked his own devotee to protect his own devotee? Does anybody know that story?
This is Bhima, Krishna attacking Lord Bhima. Sorry, Bhima, not Lord Bhima.
Yeah, no, that's very good. Yes, it was quite a fascinating story because even when I was a young boy, I was confused at that story. How is it possible that Bhishma Dev, Pitama, grandfather of Arjuna, he was actually a great devotee of Lord Krishna, and he's considered to be one of the Mahajans, the 12 Mahajans. Yet, you know, when he was showering arrows one after another to Arjuna, piercing his body, piercing Krishna's body, Krishna got very angry and he retaliated. by getting off the chariot, pulling the broken cartwheel on his finger, and was ready to attack Bhishma Dev. But it was actually a leela as well, because Bhishma Dev was saying, you know, by the end of this battle, I will ensure that you will take up a weapon, you know, in the battlefield. But also Krishna did it to protect Arjuna. Although Bhishma was a devotee, but at that time, because he was on the side of Duryodhana, the food he was eating was made from cooked food by the Kauravas, and therefore it became very pure. Bhishma Dev at that time, he became very impure as well, because he was eating the grain cooked by the Kauravas, by Duryodhana's family. So it had a knock-on effect on Bhishma Dev's personality. And even during Draupadi, when she was disrobed, he did not say anything. He may have got angry, but he could have got up and actually prevented the war of Kurukshetra by preventing Draupadi being disrobed, humiliated, disrobed by Dushasan. Can anyone tell a story of Lord Rama when he got very angry?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I say something on,
Yeah, sure.
on Bhishma Dev?
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
So we know in the assembly of the Kauravas where Draupadi was being disrobed, Bhishma Pitama, he just hung his head down, and we mistake Bhishma Pitama here, even on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, when he was fighting on the side of the Kauravas. That people say that he has eaten the food of Duryodhana and he was contaminated. That's not true, because Duryodhana never worked. Bhishma Pitama, he had four generation he has been taken care of. He was the one who was supposed to sit on the throne. Here, because Bhishma wanted to have the Virya Ras, the chivalrous playtime with the Lord, and Lord Krishna also wanted to fight with someone. That's why Bhishma Dev, he went on the other side, because if he was on the same side, he wouldn't be able to fight with the Lord, to give the Lord the pleasure of the fight. Also, if Bhishma Dev had stood up in the assembly of the Kauravas and stood against Dushasan and Duryodhana, we would not get to see Draupadi calling out helplessly the name of the Lord, and the Lord coming out. And as we know, Lord Krishna, he takes any form, anytime, any place. And here he has taken the form of the cloth material and enveloped the body of Draupadi. We would never be able to see that. So Bhishma Dev is just trying to give credit to the Lord. If he had done something here, the Lord would not be coming. So we always mistake Bhishma Dev, but he is a great Mahajan.
Oh yeah,
And
definitely.
yes.
Yeah.
And he knows, he just wanted the Lord to get the credit of saving the devotees, not himself. Even on the battlefield, when he was throwing the arrows on when Bhishma Dev was throwing the arrows on Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavatam that all those arrows were just like flower garlands on him, that he was showering flowers on him, and he was enjoying that Virya Rasa.
Yeah. No, thank you so much, Indalika, Devidasa, for sharing the realization. If as you come along in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it actually mentions when Bhishma Dev is actually on the arrow bed, is actually asking for forgiveness to all the Pandavas, to Draupadi, and so forth, and it's explaining, you know, for his actions that were immoral. And then Draupadi actually says to Bhishma Dev, so why did you not do anything when I was being disrobed? So that is when there is the particular verse when Bhishma Dev actually mentions that because of the food he was eating from the Kauravas. Yeah.
Yes, probably.
So,
that was a humility of Bhishma Dev.
yeah.
That was a humility. But if we say practically, Duryodhana never earned, he never worked, right? It's all, everything belonged to Bhishma Dev.
Yeah,
and
sure.
he just put it like that there just to pacify Draupadi, because Draupadi was very, very angry at that time. Even Bhishma Dev, you kept quiet, but he didn't say like that.
No, thank you very much, Indalika Mataji. Other stories of Krishna getting angry and protecting his devotee, of course, killing of Kamsa, because the way his own parents, Vasudeva and Devaki, were tortured, imprisoned, humiliated. So Lord Krishna, as a young boy, he killed Kamsa very angrily, Other stories of Parashuram, he slays the Kshatriyas 21 times because they were becoming very demonic and while having no sort of personal respect to the Brahmanas at all. They were becoming very proud of their race and they were not following Dharma. Another wonderful story is this is Lord Ramachandra, who's also the Supreme Lord. When he meditates on the ocean of the Lanka, between Lanka and India, he meditates on Varuna to allow passage to cross over. And for 3 days he meditates, but Varuna doesn't come at all to his aid. And because of that, Lord Ramachandra gets very angry and he shoots arrows into the ocean, burning it to become like fire, killing all the aquatics within the ocean itself. So there's some wonderful stories within the Mahabharata, the Bhagavatam, sharing stories of how Krishna protects his devotees, and there's always leelas behind it. But as I mentioned earlier on, his anger is transcendental. So unlike us as a human being, our anger is very different compared to Krishna. So Krishna has 64 qualities. And one of the qualities he has is that Krishna is self-controlled. So whether he's angry or happy, he's always self-controlled. One of the other quality he is forgiving. So even though he may have killed or somebody may have committed offenses to Krishna, you've probably heard of the story where Durvasha Muni or Bhrigu Muni wants to find out who is the Supreme Lord. He goes and blasphemes Brahma or says something to Brahma to find out who the Supreme Lord is. Brahma gets very angry at his son Bhrigu Muni. Then he goes to Lord Shiva. Shiva gets angry because of his impetude. Then he goes to Lord Krishna. He kicks Lord Vishnu on his chest. And Lord Vishnu gets up and asks for forgiveness. Or did you hurt yourself? It shows you the kindness of Krishna, that even though he may be attacked by an angry person, he can still control himself as well. Krishna is also gives salvation to all the enemies he kills. So although he may kill all the demonic monsters, ultimately they get salvation, as I mentioned earlier on. So some other verses within the Bhagavad Gita. This is chapter 16, verse 21. This is all related to anger, because anger is the cause of the decline in our own spiritual life. This is chapter 16, verse 21. Trividam narakas dvaram nashanam atmana kama krodas tata lobas tasmadita trayam trayaya chet. There are 3 gates leading to hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. So, I mean, there are many faults within the human being, partly because of the anarthas that we have committed over many lifetimes. We're conditioned by the 3 modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Of those qualities within those goodness, passion, and ignorance, lust, anger, and greed is very prevalent. And anger is also the cause root of distractions in our own life. I think there's a particular verse where Arjuna is asking Krishna, what is the cause of all these sinful reactions? Even though you may not want to do those sinful reactions, Krishna says it's lust alone, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion, which is later transformed into wrath, which is later the cause of destruction of the whole world. So anger itself is something that we all have to control. We also have to understand why the cause of anger is there in the first place. Some devotees are very, very shy by nature. They're very quiet, very tranquil. Other devotees are very passionate. They're just very fiery and wanting to get on with things as well. So these are the qualities we have to learn to develop into the mode of pure goodness itself. Just see if there's another verse as well I could share with you. Okay, it's another verse related to anger as well. So this is chapter 4, verse 10. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mamupashita bhavojjana tapasa buddha madbhavamagata. Translation: being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, been fully absorbed in me, taken refuge in me. Many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me. Thus they all attained transcendental love for me. So you can see the word anger is mentioned several times in the Bhagavad Gita, as well as lust and greed, something that we need to control, attachment, fear, something as we develop in a Krishna consciousness that becomes easier the more we surrender. As all who surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path, O Saripita. So the more we surrender to Krishna, the more Krishna surrenders unto us and gives us the intelligence, the remembrance to allow us to focus on the Supreme Lord. Now, we're just coming to the end soon. Does anyone, if they've got angry at Krishna for any reason, they've been disappointed in any way? I know it may be confidential, so don't worry if you don't want to say anything. Okay, so sometimes as devotees of Krishna, we're always surrendered souls, which is what Krishna is the center of everything that we do. But on occasions, there are times when things go wrong. We miss flights, we have an accident, our health deteriorates, lose, we get angry, we get upset, salvation, it goes to somebody died our own sort of parameter. Well, Krishna, you know, how can this happen to us? You know, we're trying to do our best to surrender to you. We're trying to do our best to serve you, to love you, sing and glorious. Why is it that certain color have been happening still? So Queen Kunti Devi is actually praying to Krishna, my dear Krishna, despite all these calamities happening to me, may allow these distresses to happen again and again, and only in such a way that we can remember Krishna. So if you can somehow turn those anger or frustrations or, you know, rejections into a way to say, well, Krishna, you're the cause of all causes. It is by your, you know, by your benefit or by your causeless mercy that everything is arranged in such a way, me being put into such a situation, me being put away in a way that is actually very difficult to overcome. When you look at how Srila Prabhupada's disciples were persecuted in Russia, you know, in a very inhumane way. They were locked up with hardly any food. They were constantly being tested on, being pumped with so many medications, trying to, you know, what do they call it? Brainwash them to, or deprogram them in such a way. But the devotees were very loyal to Krishna. They just wanted to completely have faith in Krishna. And that is actually the true sign of a devotee, when you have complete faith in Krishna. Even though you may have difficulties in your life, we just have to be in a way that we can completely surrender to Krishna, to say, Krishna, everything will be all right at the end of the day. There was a wonderful story of a great legendary devotee. His name is Tribhuvanath Prabhu. He was mentioning that during the 70s, at the time between Palestinians and the Israelites, there was a lot of war going on in Israel, and he happened to be there preaching. And his temple, or the place where he was staying, happened to be right opposite the PLO. PLO is the Palestinian Liberation Army office. And many of you may remember during the 70s and 80s, there was constant news of the war, the issues between Palestinians and the Israelites. And what had happened, there was a big bombing that exploded very nearby to the PLO. And the first thing that the PLO did, their armies went into the place where the devotees were staying in the building opposite, and they arrested every single devotees and locked them up. When they locked up the devotees in the prison, they were forced to eat meat, they were forced to eat stale food, they were, you know, like stripped naked, they were actually beaten up in so many ways, but really in a humane way. But despite that, Tribhuvannath Prabhu and the devotees were very, very, very dedicated to remembering Krishna as a protector of this, of all his devotees. And even at the end, when the Palestinians actually told him to sign this document to say that you had no part into it, but they said, well, we can't read this. It's a document which is actually not in English. We don't understand what it says. For all we know, that it could be saying that we are actually the cause of all the bombing itself. But they forced them to sign this. And then they signed it. And then they said, okay, we're going to let you know. I just know that you've been very honored to stay in our country, they say. So as soon as they were free, the first place they went out, they got a flight anywhere just to get out from the place. Because when devotees go out preaching, when you see them going out on Sankirtan, there is always Maya, which is very strong, very prevalent, always constantly threatening the Yuga Dharma. Harinam Sankirtan, many devotees have been attacked during Sankirtan, during book distribution, but somehow or another, they don't retaliate with anger. They try and be humble and meek. I know within the Bible it says, somebody slaps you, Lord Jesus Christ says to turn the other cheek. But sometimes within our own principles of Bhagavad Gita, it mentions that if somebody is attacking the devotees, you have to protect the devotees. You cannot allow them to be just say, oh no, it's your karma, it's your reaction. We as devotees are protecting other devotees of Krishna. Just like, in many cases in Mayapur, when the temple was actually attacked by the local bandits, they had to take up arms themselves, the devotees, and protect the temple compound. If they didn't, they couldn't just allow the bandits to come over and take over the place itself and cause destruction and harm to all the devotees, the leaders, the children. So we have to ensure that as devotees of Krishna, we have to be strong in our mind and intelligence to be free from anger, lust, and greed, but at the same time understand when anger is used, it is used primarily for protecting the devotees of Krishna. So I'll stop there. Is there any questions anybody wanted to ask?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Dalika Mataji.
As you mentioned before, in Lord Ram pastimes, when Lord Ram went in to build the bridge over the ocean, Varun Dev wouldn't come. So it is also written in the Ramayana, that Lord Ram, he was doing the prayer, right? He was asking, but Varun Dev didn't come. Why? If Varun Dev had come before Lord Ram was angry, then it would show that he was superior to Lord Ram. So Varun Dev said, I wanted you to get angry to show your authority on me. That's why I delayed. I was waiting for the time when you will be angry. Then I came and allowed you to build the bridge. But everything belongs to you, right? That's I wanted your authority to be on mine, not me just allowing you. So in this case, when Lord Ram got angry, then it shows that Varun Dev was subordinate to Lord Ram.
No, thank you very much. That's a very good point, because there are many wonderful leelas and stories within the stories itself. And that was one of the reasons, because Varuna Dev, he knows who the Supreme Lord is, but sometimes out of pride, also, there's also a cause for them being reluctant to come. Just like Lord Indra, he had pride because when he saw Krishna worshipping Govardhan Hill, he got very jealous and he sent constant torrential rain 7 days and 7 nights. But actually it was a Leela itself to show who Krishna was, the Supreme Lord. Without the Govardhan Leela, there would be no Anakat festival. Krishna would be lifting up the Govardhan Hill with this little finger on his left hand. He wouldn't be protecting the inhabitants of Nandagram at that time. So these pastimes are very, very important because it's also showing who the Supreme Lord is. Similarly with the story of Lord Brahma, when he was saying that Krishna was just an ordinary boy and he kidnapped all the boys and the cows in a cave, and then he came back and he saw that the same boys and cowed, that same cows and cowed boys were there, but in a more opulent personality. He was very baffled. And then then he realized Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Yes. So Varuna sometimes, out of shown respect, was actually seen that Lord Ram as the Supreme Lord itself. Sometimes some of these stories are very difficult to understand, but there's always a hidden meaning. And some of the acharyas say a lot of these hidden meanings in different books rather than the actual book itself. Thank you
Yes,
for sharing that.
Yes, Prabhuji, even it's a misconception. So many Shivaite devotees of Lord Shiva, they say that Lord Shiva is greater than Krishna and than Lord Ram because Lord Shiva was praying at Rameshwaram to Lord Ram was praying to Lord Shiva at Rameshwaram before going for the battle. But that also, he was not praying because Lord Shiva is the greatest devotee of the Lord. Lord Shiva he kept the poison during the churning of the ocean in his throat. And he became Nilkantha because he didn't want the poison to go down because he knew Lord Ram resided in his heart. And we know he's the greatest Vaishnava. And he was just letting Lord Shiva know that I'm going to kill your devotee because Ravana was the greatest devotee of Lord Shiva.
No, thank you very much.
Yes.
There's so many wonderful stories. Like even if you read the Lord Chaitanya Leelas, it's very difficult to understand because there's a story pastime of where a Brahmana boy wanted to hear the kirtans of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Srinivas Acharya's house. So Srinivas actually hid the boy behind some pot. And then while Lord Chaitanya was dancing away and singing, he noticed something was not right. Then he saw the Brahmana boy behind the pot, and he was in an angry mood, said, "What are you doing here? Who has invited you?" And he pushed the young Brahmin boy away. Srinivas Acharya had to beg the Lord for forgiveness and said, "Oh, my dear Lord, this Brahmana is just a young boy. He's very pure by nature and by heart. He just wanted to take darshan of you. You're singing, you're dancing." So because of that, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called him back and said, "Yes, please come back again." On the other hand, there's another wonderful story where Lord Chaitanya is actually with his disciples, and there's a leper who comes, and he comes to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and prays for his mercy. Lord Chaitanya angrily tells him to go away from here. Now, most people would think, from a materialistic point of view, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is being discriminative towards this leper with all his diseases and pus coming out from the pores of his body. But actually, it was revealed that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "I cannot give you any mercy. I cannot give you any compassion. You are an offender." And then the leper was very bewildered and he didn't understand why. But basically, he had offended one of the devotees, one of the disciples or followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then the leper was told to go and ask for forgiveness. And when he went to ask for forgiveness, then his leprosy was cured. The offenses to the devotees is very, very important that we must avoid altogether. Another beautiful story was, in fact, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very, very angry at Mother Sachi. Now, when you see the bond Mother Sachi had for Lord Chaitanya, nothing meant more to her than Lord Chaitanya. The whole world evolved around Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So how is it possible that Lord Chaitanya got very angry at Mother Sachi? And it explains that in the Chaitanya Bhagavad that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got angry because Mother Sachi kept on offending Advaita Acharya. Because Advaita Acharya was very close to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, she felt slightly disturbed. She was saying to Advaita Acharya, "Why are you taking Krishna, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu away from me? Why are you asking him to go and travel around everywhere? Why are you asking him to take sannyas?" So she got angry and she was disturbing. Or, of course, Advaita Acharya wasn't offended in any way. He is Mahavishnu after all. But Lord Chaitanya, because of her sort of relationship with Advaita Acharya, he got very angry at her, and he wouldn't speak to her for days on end. And then Advaita Acharya had to beg for forgiveness, beg for mercy. Please, 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 do not be like this to your mother. She cares so much for you. She provides all this opulent prasadam for you. Please, she cares so much about you. So, of course, these are all wonderful leelas and pastimes. And for most neophyte devotees like me anyway, it's very difficult to understand, but it's beautiful pastors because we can understand the relishing mood of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his disciples, Mother Sachi, and all the other personalities, Lord Krishna, Rama, Parashuram, and so forth. So thank you so much. I'll end there unless anybody else has any last comments or questions.
Hi, Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam, Jai Krishna Prabhupada.
Hi, Krishna.
Just a quick one on that story you mentioned, Prabhuji. Actually, Sachi Mata didn't offend verbally. It was the offense was just in her mind. She was just thinking that way. And in the age of Kali, thinking of an offense isn't actually offense. Yet still, because she was offending in the mind of Chaitanya Prabhu, he took that as an offense to Advaita Acharya.
Okay, thank you for that.
She actually didn't act upon it.
Yeah.
She was just actually thinking it in her mind. And yet, in the age of Kali, we understand that if you just think bad things and don't act upon it, it doesn't act. But even then, Lord Chaitanya said, because he was against the devotee, he took that as being an offense, and therefore he was ignoring her. And then he asked her to go and apologize to Advaita Acharya. He said, what offense? That's how it was. So she actually didn't act upon it. It's an important difference.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shailesh Prabhu. Thank you for that clarification. And it's important that I don't actually send any misconception. When I read the Chaitanya Bhagavad, it was quite a while ago, and when I remember that Leela, it just came to my mind. But your clarification was very good, and thank you for the correction on that. Thank you, Shailesh Prabhu. Thank you, everyone. So I'll pay my respects. Please forgive me for any offenses or any mistakes that I've made. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, Dantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Panchakalpa Taruvishya, Kripasinabhevacha, Patitana Bhavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Nice
Thank you,
class, Prabhuji. Very nice class.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, everyone.